talking about this kind of timeline split, this particular 8-8 portal it's always about bringing new things into your life. It's always about starting new cycles. It's about, aligning with that Syrian energy. And sometimes it's been called like the super sun because, Sirius is aligned with the sun, is aligned with the constellation Orion. It was the Egyptian New Year, all that kind of stuff. But this year, 2025, it is extremely powerful. And this is a time when you really want to be very focused and mindful about what you want in your life, what you want to manifest, where you want to go, and think of it on more than just a material level, not just traveling or having material goods, but, what kind of energy do you want to start embodying? Because this particular gate, it's going to make it happen, like almost instantaneously. As you think it's happening.
Hey there, beautiful souls. It's your girl, Allie, and we are back at it again for another episode of Living Life Consciously. We have a very special guest lined up for you this evening, and we are stoked to get started. So without further ado, Justin, say hey.
Hey there, Cosmic Thrill Seekers. I'm Justin. This is Living Life Consciously, where we explore the extraordinary, ride the waves of inspiration, and embark on an adventure of limitless curiosity together.
And I'm Leslie, your co-host, also known as Light Being Love, an eternal spiritual being having a temporary human experience. We are here with our friend Rowan. Rowan, would you like to say hi?
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm very excited because I got to meet these guys in person first. So this is like a little reunion.
Yes. Oh, and that's another thing that I would like to point out is that you are the first person that I ever got to invite or to welcome into our Discord server, like in person. Like normally when we welcome people into the server, it's like a little welcome posting thing. But I was like, Rowan, welcome.
That was so fun. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. And for our audience, in this episode, we welcome a truly extraordinary soul, Rowan Riverstone, a gifted psychic medium who's been tuned into the unseen realms since she was a child. From prophetic dreams to spontaneous visions, from whispers of the spirit world to full-blown downloads from beyond the stars, Rowan's journey is nothing short of otherworldly. She's walked between worlds, reading tarot, guiding ghost investigations through the haunted streets of Savannah, Georgia, and more recently, she's connected with her cosmic lineage, awakening to her starseed origins from Mintaka and Maldek. The messages she's receiving now, well, they're profound. Light codes from higher realms, visions of Gaia's transformation into the 4D reality we would all love to see, and urgent transmissions from soul and our deep ancestral memory. So take a breath. Get ready, and let's dive into this conversation. Rowan, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Is there anywhere in particular you would like to start the conversation, or should I just throw a question at you?
Go ahead and just throw a question at me. Let's see how this goes.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
All right. Can you remember the very first time you realized your psychic gifts were different from the average kid's imagination?
Yeah, and I'm not even really sure that I compared it to other children.
Okay.
When I was very little, my parents had two elderly dogs who passed away kind of in rapid succession of each other because they were very close and they had been together all their lives. And they were like 16 or 17 years old, something like that. I had to be around 4 when this happened. I woke up, I remember waking up and I remember walking into my parents' bedroom and feeling like I should just look out the window. And I looked out the window into the backyard and I saw both dogs sitting in the backyard like they normally would, and I didn't really understand death at that point. So I knew I'd been told that they died. I had attended the burial and all that kind of stuff, but there they were sitting in the yard. And I was super excited to see them. And I started yelling, Sam and sister, Sam and sister. My parents woke up. They're like, what are you doing? I said, Sam and sister. And like, yeah, they're buried out there, honey. You need to go back to bed. I'm like, no, they're there. And they're like, yeah, they're buried. And I just realized that they weren't seeing what I was seeing.
Wow.
And yeah. And a little bit later, I had an experience with one of our cats who passed. I was sitting there watching Saturday morning cartoons, and I felt her, just as plain as a normal cat, come around and rub on my back and come sit next to me. I saw her, and my mother came in and she saw me kind of like petting something. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm petting Fluff." And she's like, "Oh, you just have such a big imagination."
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's when I first realized, not everybody sees what I see.
Okay. So did your parents kind of like accept your Claire abilities, or were they more the type that were like, "Oh, honey, you're just imagining things"? Like,
Oh, they never really accepted it. And it's funny, I didn't find out until after they moved out of that house into another one that they had had experiences too, but they didn't want to talk about it because it freaked them out.
Don't you love that?
Yeah.
They probably thought it would freak you out, but you
Yeah.
were having probably more experiences than they were.
Yeah.
Right.
It was, yep.
I'm sorry.
I know that you, are pretty open about your autism. So I'm wondering, with the telepathy tapes and everything that's coming out more recently, I don't know if you've heard of that. Have you?
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, we'll talk about that in a second. But
okay, cool.
If you think that is connected to your, clairs and your abilities in that, area, but telepathy tapes is something you should definitely check out, and it's about the nonverbal community of autism.
Yeah.
And that it's like they're proving it, it's proven that they are telepathic, and they're reading, minds of those who they're close with, and it's amazing. So you should check it out for sure.
I will definitely check that out. I do think that there is a good possibility that a lot of people who are neurodivergent in various ways probably do have some Claire abilities. We just, our brains are wired a little differently, and it makes perfect sense to me. And I think when I meet other people who are also on the spectrum, we kind of do have this understanding that I don't really get with people who aren't, just an instantaneous connection, understanding sort of thing. So yeah, I think there could very much be something to that. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Wow.
I feel like the neurodivergent family that we currently have on Earth is I want to say that it's like increasing. I don't know if there's like more autistic people now than like back in the day, or if we just have a better way of like keeping track of it because we're diagnosing people more. But I don't know. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that I feel like autistic people are like super special, superhuman beings. Like they came here with a mission, not just to be on Earth, but like they came with like lack of veil and like more connection to source. And just like Leslie mentioned with the telepathy tapes, these kids are telepathic. They're communicating with their parents, with their caretakers, with their teachers, with their doctors, with each other from states and countries away on a place that they call the Hill. Apparently it's the telepathic chat room that they all meet up in, and it's like it's so mind-blowing. And to be able to scientifically prove it is like to be able to put scientific research behind it and verify it with data, it's just like I'm so here for it. I'm so freaking here for it. Thank you guys for being here. Seriously, I'm not just trying to be cute, but like I really mean it.
Yeah. Well, and that's that kind of touches on one of the downloads that I've had fairly recently, is that we're getting into an era where science is starting to converge with a lot of these ancient teachings and a lot of things that have been talked about in various cultures throughout, millennia, really. I mean, as long as humans have been humans. And yeah, they're really kind of starting to take it more seriously. They're taking theory of mind more seriously. They're taking quantum physics. It's just a lot of it is coming together, and that's part of that whole evolution into that next 4D existence.
Yes. Yeah. Science is meeting spirituality. East is meeting West. Whatever you want to call it. It's like the convergence of the two, because they've been on separate camps for so long, and it's like
exactly
you're missing the mark there. I feel like.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And also kind of this difficult situation that we're going through right now globally. It's very much kind of Earth's tower moment. And this concept of hierarchy that we've had for so long is, as things stand now, pretty toxic. And so these things have to be brought out from the shadows into the light, and they have to be obvious enough that everyone can see it for what it is. And that motivates people to start to make that change and to stop worrying about who's on top or who has more or, power over. We're moving more into a state of power of, where everybody feels empowered.
Wow, I love that.
I'm thinking of so many things as I hear you say that. I'm thinking of like the picture of ECO, where the human being is in the middle and the animals and the nature and the plants and everything is around it. Like everybody's on the same equal playing field. And then you have ego, where it's like a pyramid structure where a human being is at the top and everything else is below it. And I feel like we've been in ego for so long, but now we're moving on to being eco, where it's like more in commune with each other and with nature. That's what I can't wait for. That's why we're doing the show. We're trying to manifest that kind of thing.
Right.
That is how we were when we started.
Yeah.
Right.
That is how we were when we started, before we thought that we had a lot of resources to guard. The inception of agriculture kind of changed that paradigm a lot.
That's so true. Right.
Interesting point. And, I've thought about that so I have a degree in agricultural education and communication, and I didn't become spiritual until after I obtained that degree. And then once I became spiritual and started thinking about everything on a much deeper level, I'm like, agriculture might not be that great of an idea, because like you're just looking at the land and the plants and the animals as a means to an end, rather than like something that is alive and has consciousness and is sentient. And it's like, I really respect how the Native Americans like work with the topography of the land and only grow the crops that are native to that area. Whereas like the colonizers, so to speak, just are like, this is what I want from this thing, and I want it in such and such a time, and they're going to shoot things through with antibiotics and hormone boosters and all this other stuff. And it's like they just turn a living thing into like a machine that's just ultimately going to die. So I was like really sad.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're absolutely right.
But as a person with an agriculture degree, it like hurts my heart to say that. But like once I came to that like realization, I was like, oh shit.
Just makes me think of I don't know, it's a weird thing to interject here, but since Temple Grandin, though, she is another person with autism, and she did help a lot in that field to create calmness for the cattle when they were experiencing complete chaos prior to their unfortunate death. And yes, it would be awesome if that was treated a little bit more sacred, that their lives are being taken, and the way that the Native Americans did.
My name is Temple Grandin. I'm not like other people.
Can you bring everything you've seen to your mind?
Sure, can't you?
Temple was born in the 60s when autism was really misunderstood.
No speech yet at the age of
4.
Your child is clearly autistic.
What's the next step for her?
We generally recommend an institution.
Her mother keeps pushing her somewhat to meet those challenges and to go out into the world in order that she will function as best that she can.
As she became more self-aware, she realized that she had certain strengths that she could really exploit, and she found a way to self-medicate.
She goes to see her aunt and uncle on a farm where they raise cattle. It's where she learns that she actually empathizes with animals.
You have a very special mind that's going to open up onto a whole new world for you.
They have colleges with cows?
Yes, they do.
Thank God her mother forced her to get an education because she is a doctor in animal science.
I'm a visual thinker. I think totally in pictures. My mind works like Google Images.
She ended up working in the cattle industry, creating systems for cattle to move calmly. Temple realized there was a more humane way to encourage cattle.
And she saw you could make something that would fool a cow, walking down a ramp with slats on it, so the cow walked peacefully in and then found itself stepping off into the water. She knew the cows liked to walk in curved corners because they thought they were going back somewhere they'd been before. It was amazing that she could have visualized that whole thing.
When I designed the dip that, I could see it in my mind.
She really understands animal behavior. If you do what she says, you're going to be more productive, and it's a lot more humane.
She really revolutionized the slaughter industry as a result.
All right, we got our rights. Okay. What's going on here?
They killed them because of their stupidity.
One of the great things about making this movie was that we worked from her plans and we reconstructed one of her great achievements.
It was surreal seeing the dip vat that I designed recreated here. Absolutely perfect.
We needed cows, so HBO bought a herd of cows. We had someone with us at all times. Everybody looked after the cattle remarkably meticulously.
It will look very intense on film. However, when the viewers look very closely, they'll notice most of the commotion was just man-made.
There were animal handlers present on set, constantly looking out for their well-being.
All the facilities that we do are geared primarily for the humane treatment of animals.
They have 2 stuffy cows, as we call them in the film business, and an animatronic cow. These animals are used in place of a live, real cow to depict some of the action.
They have done a whole lot for the treatment and the handling of all kinds of animals, cattle especially.
Her ethos was, I love animals so much. I want every moment of their lives will be calm. And what we've done in the movie is convey how she was able to see that in her head before she constructed it.
Why are some mooing more loudly than others? There must be a reason they're saying something.
Mooing. You want to do research and write your master's on mooing.
I think that there is a tremendous lesson learned out of Temple's journey that we can help unlock a door for somebody who appears very locked in.
I know my system will work because I've been through it 1,000 times in my head.
People had been working in the cattle industry for decades and never really noticed how the cattle behaved.
Ultimately, she not only changed the face of the livestock industry, but she really changed the face of autism.
She's a real authority, and she's written many books on autism and animal behavior, and she's a real success by anyone's standards.
My husband read about you.
Miss Grandin, this is a masterpiece.
Thank you so much for bringing her up, because again, when I first watched that video or movie, documentary, whatever you want to call it, with her in it, I was just like, wow, like it really shook me, because I'm like, so much of what goes on in those types of environments have absolutely nothing to do with the true well-being of that animal. Again, it's just a means to an end.
Yeah.
And I remember the scene specifically where like the whole class goes to the farming unit where they have all the cattle and stuff, and she's like, why are they mooing so loud? And everybody looked at her and like made fun of her. It was like, because that's what cows do. But really, no, they were in distress.
She was feeling it, like she was coming from the heart. And because of her autism, she was able to like tune into that and like feel that, you know what I mean? And that's amazing.
Yeah. And she literally crawled through the cattle place where they go, where all the cows have to traverse through and everything. And she literally on her hands and knees crawled through that whole facility and pointed out places where there were things that were stressing out the cows. Like, for example, there was this one little turn that was a little bit too tight. Like it was just hard for them to physically maneuver it. And there was something that was like hanging from the ceiling that was shiny. So there was like a light that was in their eyes. So like that whole area was just like congested because of the design and because of her. They redesigned it and it became more flowy. Shout out to her. Thank you for bringing that up, Leslie.
You're welcome. I guess my brain works in a little bit of a neurodivergent way too. I'm like making these connections like as we talk.
No, that's great. I love it.
Rowan, you've mentioned a possible timeline split. What might that look like, and how can we consciously choose alignment?
Okay, well, first, I think I want to talk a little bit more about what I mean by timeline splitting. I'm not sure if everyone has the same definition, but I know what my definition is. Okay. And it's not like literal time jumping. You know, you're not jumping into some other time dimension or time stream or something like that. It's about how you experience your reality. And there are two, I say two, I'm talking in binary just because it makes sense to most listeners. It's not really a binary situation, but let's, for brevity's and clarity's sake, say that.
Oh, is it more like a spectrum?
Yes, exactly. You know, and and you know, on one hand, you are choosing movement and growth, and on the other hand, you are choosing stagnation and kind of a harmful self-protection. And so that kind of ties into some of what we were talking about with the agriculture and everything else too, you know, the resource guarding. So we have kind of two camps going on on Earth right now, and that is a bit more of a binary. You have people that have fallen so far into the material that they genuinely cannot see that anything else exists beyond that. And for them, during this time period, nothing else does exist beyond that. And that is when we fall into kind of a darker era of people, exploiting animals, exploiting the planet, not really concerned with climate change or, whether Earth is going to be habitable for humans in the future. And, a lot of people talk about worry for Gaia. Don't worry about Gaia. There is nothing we can do scratching around on this surface that is going to hurt Gaia. Yeah. The only thing that we're going to hurt is ourselves.
Gaia gonna be all right. It's us that's going to suffer from our own actions.
Exactly. And that is one pathway that we can take. And if enough people kind of fall into that materialism without really considering the spiritual reality behind it all, if they stop realizing that the whole as above, so below is very literal, that's the timeline where, we destroy ourselves, and then we're coming back in different types of incarnations that are not human. The other one is where things are converging, like we're talking about. People become a lot more aware of how all of these conflicts that we're having are also a mirror of our own internal conflicts, our own internal shadows, our own internal securities, and part of waking up to the knowledge that the veil that is over all of our human existence is an illusion, and that it is very possible to figure that out in this lifetime. It is very possible to see beyond that and to take us into a better place. And part of the way that you do that is just by focusing on that, believing that, changing your own energetic way of interacting with other people, kind of deprogramming a lot of that hierarchical thinking and need-based thinking and scarcity mindset. And I don't mean that in kind of the toxic way that sometimes that's used, with abundance thinking, that kind of whole, oh, well, if you don't have it, you're just not wanting it enough. I don't mean it that way. I just mean that regardless of what you actually have, you can always have an abundance mentality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's pretty amazing. When you get into that mindset, that's, things start happening for you.
I feel like the law of attraction and I feel like the law of attraction is really real, and the whole idea of manifesting is really real, and the idea that we literally create our reality, that's a wild thing to wrap your head around, so thank you for talking about all these really important things, and you said it pretty eloquently. I've never heard it grouped together so well before. I was
right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So you would also agree that it's to each individual and their perspective and their mindset to the split on which way they could go. It's basically an individual path, not an all or nothing for everybody on the earth.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think we can already see some of that now too. Look at some of the people who have the most resources on this planet are also some of the most deeply unhappy people here.
Right.
And you can tell that by how they're never satisfied with what they have. It's almost like a sickness. They just have to have more and more and more. And they're trying to feed themselves with the wrong food.
Yes.
Almost literally. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like if you just guzzled gasoline or something, you could guzzle however much gasoline, it's going to kill you. It's never going to nourish you. And they're seeking the wrong things for a big hole, a big need, and then you have people who have very little, but they're very content and they still manage to help each other and help other people and, give what little they have to make their communities better places. So you kind of see that timeline split with, the haves and the have-nots. I'm not trying to get political with this or anything, but just that whole idea of, you're never going to have fulfillment in material possessions. yeah, we do have a threshold where you're going to be happier if you're not scrambling to make ends meet. And again, I'm not saying this to try to negate anyone's struggle or that kind of more toxic use of that prosperity doctrine or whatever, but just the idea that, as long as your basic needs are met, things are not really going to be what's going to be filling you. And this timeline split is the people who are starting to realize that and wake up to it and find community with other people who feel the same way. And the people who cannot have community because they're so worried about somebody coming and taking things away from them.
Right.
You are so insightful. I'm wondering, like, where do you get your knowledge from? Is it just like a knowing, or do you identify as like a channel? Are you channeling this information?
It's kind of, for me, it's always been a little bit of a combination of channeling and clairsentience. Sometimes I do feel like I'm getting information from my ancestors. Sometimes I feel like I'm getting information from those who came before we were human, but who were working toward evolving into what we are now. I really feel that, like when I went to the Smithsonian and I went to their, history of man section, it brought tears to my eyes because I could feel so many spirits in that room with me that were like just the collective wisdom of everything that we have been, encoded in our DNA, encoded in our bones. And it felt like I was vibrating with it. It was just incredible. I'd never had that experience before.
Wow. That makes me think of information, because like, obviously that's an area where there's a lot of information. Like, I don't know, for some reason, information just popped out. Like somehow that was the energetics. I don't know what I'm saying, but anyway, you did mention the 8-8 portal, and I don't know if you wanted to touch on any of that.
So yeah, I'll touch on that. Talking about this kind of timeline split, this particular 8-8 portal it's always about bringing new things into your life. It's always about starting new cycles. It's about, aligning with that Sirian energy. And sometimes it's been called like the super sun because, Sirius is aligned with the sun, is aligned with the constellation Orion. Right. It was the Egyptian New Year, all that kind of stuff. But this year, 2025, it is extremely powerful. And this is a time when you really want to be very focused and mindful about what you want in your life, what you want to manifest, where you want to go, and think of it on more than just a material level, not just traveling or having material goods, but, what kind of energy do you want to start embodying? Because this particular gate, it's going to make it happen, like almost instantaneously. As you think it's happening.
Ooh,
and it's already open. Yeah, well, it's already open. It opened on like the 26th, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it peaks on the 8th, and then it closes again a little bit after that. And we've got a new moon coming right after that peak, so that's a really good way of
a full moon
thinking about starting things. Yeah,
it's a full moon.
Oh, full moon. Yes, yeah. I'm sorry. That's right. But it's the full moon is kind of like the culmination of everything that's come before. And then you go into that new moon cycle and you start thinking about the new things that are going to come out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we got to really be conscious of our thoughts during this time then, because we don't want to be manifesting the wrong things.
Right.
I want to manifest a house.
No, keep thinking see us in that house.
Yes.
Like we're just chilling on the couch watching Resident Alien.
And for something like that, you can also think about a sense of home, because sometimes we're really good at limiting the blessings that come to us by insisting on a specific form, insisting on a specific way. But if you focus more on the concept of having a home, what that means to you, what that feels like, a lot of times what comes to you is going to be better than what you could envision if you were more specific.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's a good point, because manifesting when it's emotionally charged, I feel like is better, or like it's more efficient, maybe is a better way to say that. Yeah.
I feel like I'm a pretty good manifester.
No, I think you're an excellent manifester.
I want to talk about her card pulling. I don't know what you would want to call that, or what.
The reading that we got.
Yeah, the reading that you did, the snake energy that happened, and I noticed you have your snake earrings on, so it made me think of that. But and then it'd be kind of cool. I don't know if you're prepared to like pull a card for our interview here. I don't know what.
If we can edit, I can go grab that deck. I don't have it on me right now, but I can go get it. Yeah, okay.
If you feel called to, sure.
Sure, I'll do that. Hang on a second. I'll be right back, guys.
Okay.
And the deck I'm using, in case anybody is, can you guys read that, or is no?
Beyond Lemuria.
Beyond Lemuria. Yep.
Nice.
By Izzy Ivy. And the deck is really interesting because she talks about how she channels energy into her artwork, and the artwork that she does comes from these different starseed messages and things like that. It's really fascinating. So I'm going to kind of center a little bit.
Sure.
I'm focusing on this reading just being for the collective, whoever's watching this, whoever comes across these types of messages, even though we're doing this during the Lion's Gate, it is timeless. And it's something that could have started in your life during this time that you weren't even necessarily aware of as it happened. So, wow. This is amazing. So the card that came up, I don't know if you guys can see it. It's healing. It's called healing. And there are all these really beautiful swirling energies and color. A lot of it has to do with like the solar plexus chakra. A lot of it has to do with the heart chakra. And when I see pink associated with the heart chakra, for me, that's really more about the human type of love that we have for each other, that we have for ourselves. It's a bit more of that self-esteem. It's not really that heart energy, like where you're just open to the universe and open to Gaia. This is really more about focusing on how we relate to each other and the potential for healing, how we relate to each other during this time on a large collective scale. The other thing is that you have a lot more ripples that you cause and create around you than you realize. Energy is even less dense than water. So, you think of when you throw a pebble into a pond or something like that and you see those ripples spread. Now think about how energy is so much more fluid. Energy is so much more interconnected. So what might feel to you like small things, if you're doing it with intention and you're doing it with emotion, you have a much bigger effect than you realize. Lots of people can become, I kind of call them flashpoints, because it's almost like when they get to a certain level of their own consciousness and they get to a certain clarity with their own energy, it becomes a ripple effect with everyone that they come in contact with. And I'm sure you've probably met people like that. You come in contact with them, and just by being in their presence, just by having a small conversation with them, everything changes. That's kind of what I see with this healing card talking about is more people are awakening to that type of healing. It's not like a healing through touch or Reiki energy. All of those are valid modalities, but this is something a little new. This is something a little different. And I think that this type of healing is one of the reasons that a lot more people are kind of becoming aware of starseed origins, or at least connections or channeling. That's what I'm getting from the card.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you for doing that card pull for our collective audience.
Rowan, were you the one who mentioned something about the connection to mermaids?
Well, Allison had mentioned that to me during my reading when I first went to her before I decided to go to the summer camp. She had said to me, you're largely in the mermaid realm right now. And I was like, oh, really? So that's what I started kind of looking into, especially Mintakan energy. It made a lot of sense to me. And
is Mintakan mermaid? Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The planet was Artuvia, and it is no more. It was destroyed, but the water there was so crystalline clear it was almost like air. And the really interesting thing to me about that, we talk about childhood connections and everything. From the time I was very small, one of my favorite things to do was to jump in the pool, sink down to the bottom, and just pretend that I could breathe through my skin.
Oh.
That seemed normal to me. It just seemed like something that I was supposed to be able to do. And especially when the sun was out, I just felt like it seemed like a timeless realm. I was almost somewhere else. And I think that is possibly that Mintakan connection that Allison had mentioned.
So is that when you first connected with your Mintakan and Maldekian, if that's the correct way to say it, origins, like through when Allison did that with you?
That was the first time I became aware of it.
Okay.
But, looking back through my life, like talking about that childhood experience in the swimming pool, and Maldekan energies are also connected to Mars. There was a relationship between the two planets before Maldek was destroyed. When I first did a science report on Mars in 5th grade, I had just this amazing feeling of excitement. And, again, this was pre-internet. So all I had to go off of were different books and encyclopedias and things like that. And they talked about how people had thought that there had been civilizations there. And, they're like, but they really weren't. And I remember thinking, no, there were.
And I was there.
Yeah, and I had no idea how I knew that. My teacher kind of indulged me. She's like, "Oh, well, it's always possible." I'm like, "No, I'm serious. There were." And I just kind of always had things coming to me like that when I was a kid, and still do as an adult. But I process it a little differently now, I think.
So, are you familiar with Joe McMoneagle?
Mm-mm.
No.
Remote viewer number 1.
Yeah, remote viewer number 1. So he is one of the most famous remote viewers.
Yep.
And he has a long history, documented history of remote viewing for the government. And his accuracy percentage is extremely high.
Wow.
Which is why he's one of the best remote viewers.
Like in the whole world.
Yeah, and he remote viewed Mars 1 million years ago, and saw civilizations and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
Right. So I thought that's a pretty cool connection that you have there.
The D said, Bob Monroe has the target in his pocket. So I pull it out of my shirt pocket, open it up. It said Mars, 1 million BC, which made me angry. And I'll tell you why. I hate doing a target where I cannot prove ground truth, because then I don't know if it's real or I'm inventing it. It doesn't do me any good. And I can't actually sit there and say, this is exactly 100% correct.
It's unfalsifiable.
Yeah, unfalsifiable, but unprovable. So it made me angry. So I said, give me the card. I took the card and the envelope, put it in my shirt pocket. I said, the next time I'm at JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab in California, I'm going to find out where they have negatives of these locations and get them. And Bob said, they'll never give that to you. And I said, they damn well better, because we pay for all those pictures with our taxes.
Yep.
They can't classify those pictures because they're in space. So next time I was in California, I went to JPL, and they have a big counter where you go in and buy pictures of space. So I went up to the counter, and the guy said, how can I help you? And I said, I have this card here, and I handed it to him. And he looked at it, and I said, I'd like to see the 4x4 negatives for those locations on that card. And he went, oh, this is the old city on Mars. And he turned around, pulled a drawer up, and he gave me a packet, had all the negatives inside. So they're in my book, Mind Trek.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what do the negatives show?
It shows exactly what I described.
It shows pyramids?
It shows a big pyramid. It shows an old fort. It shows a wall that's collapsed.
On Mars.
And yeah, but that's not the coolest thing.
So it's negative images of those locations now on Mars.
Yeah.
And you can see the pyramids.
they're heavily worn. They're just much damage to them.
But it's clear they're pyramids.
Yeah.
That like look like they were man-made.
Yeah. In fact,
why do they look like they're man-made?
Well, I'll give you the reason why I know they're man-made.
Okay.
There's an impact crater,
Mhm.
and on the side of the impact crater is a triangular piece of land that obviously has been constructed there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the center of that is a four-sided pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the cool part. You know the place of the camera, which is circling Mars. You know exactly where it is when I took that picture. You know where the sun is in relationship. So you know by the shadow, you can compute the size of the impact crater and its sides by the shadow of the sides.
Mm-hmm.
The side shadow in this particular case was 1/4 of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
That 1/4 of an inch represents about 3,000 feet. So the impact crater walls are 3,000 feet high. That four-sided pyramid on that little triangle piece of land on the edge of the impact crater has got a shadow 2.5 inches long. Now tell me how tall that is. That's not a pyramid, that's a shard. And it's thousands of feet tall. And I actually asked the guy at JPL, I went many times at JPL, I said, what the hell is that? I don't know. Best guess is it grew there. And I said, you're out your mind. If it was an impact crater that occurred after it was there, it would have blown it away.
I think it was from an
It was put there after the impact crater.
It was the shard was put there after the
Yeah.
impact crater. By who?
So you right.
What?
Exactly. I have probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 60-something photographs of things on Mars that are clearly alien.
Really?
Yeah.
Like what else? The region of Mars that the face is located on is called Cydonia. Some researchers believe that the face is just one part of a larger set of structures in this region that also demonstrate unnatural features, perhaps even displaying specific design characteristics that suggest geometric patterns and intentional positioning, like stellar alignments. They claim that Cydonia contains multiple pyramids, basically the remnants of a city, all eroded over millennia. These formations appear to be aligned in highly unlikely ways, raising the question of whether their placement is entirely random. But it wasn't just the region of Cydonia. In the Elysium area at the north, probes photographed huge pyramids, some 500 meters high, some with 4 sides, just like the Great Pyramids of Giza. And near Mars's south pole, Mariner 9 took pictures of what looked like ancient ruins. These ancient ruins were even informally dubbed by their team as the Incan City. Elsewhere, vast areas of monolithic structures, tunnels, even other faces, seem to defy explanations that they came from only natural processes. To be clear, I'm not at all denying that many of these features could just be explained by basic Mars geology. But take this thought experiment. If similar structures and patterns were imaged on Earth, using modern techniques like LiDAR mapping, presuming they had man-made origins wouldn't be so controversial at all. So why does the same conversation seem totally off limits when it comes to Mars? What if these structures are ancient? What if they're millions, even billions of years old? The theory suggested by researchers like Graham Hancock. He states in The Mars Mystery that there could be some connection between the symbolism of these eroded monoliths in a place like Cydonia and the ancient civilizations of Earth. At this point, who knows? There are a lot of possibilities on the table. Even the question of what happened to Mars to create this seemingly lifeless place is full of fascinating theories. Over the last decade or so, Dr. John Brandenburg, a plasma physicist and propulsion scientist, has found evidence to support his hypothesis that planetary-wide catastrophic events may have occurred on Mars. His theory suggests that high concentrations of particular elements created only via rapid processes, like in thermonuclear explosions, may have been caused by a nuclear war on Mars. Perhaps a lesson for us here, but also maybe the reason we are only able to see the remnants of our neighbor's lost civilization, if it existed at all. Now let's get into other possible evidence. So, water valleys seemingly across Mars.
Obviously, Mars was just covered with liquid water. I was the one to find the Martian Ocean.
You were?
Yes.
How'd you find it?
Well, actually, it was, we were looking at Cydonia Mensa, which is a site where there's the face, and then there's a, nearby, like 5 miles away, there's a 5-sided pyramid. NASA never shows that picture of the face beside the pyramid together in any of their public photos because it becomes obvious. I gave my paper at a scientific conference in 1986 to a room full of Mars scientists, and yet NASA will never mention my name.
Really?
It's actually, it should be called the Brandenburg Ocean.
Oh, wow.
I just called it the Paleo Ocean of Mars, and but it should be called the Brandenburg Ocean. But what happened was it was an informal investigation, and I was just in charge of getting good pictures. We're trying to get as many pictures as possible of the face on Mars and the pyramid at Cydonia, from as many different lighting angles as possible. And we had 2 really good pictures at different times of day. And then I went and looked at a different part of Mars that was also on the seashore of this ocean and found another site with 2 faces, one of which looks like the same face inside a helmet as at Cydonia. It was kind of hilarious because we discovered it and we published it. And Carl Sagan had actually called me on the phone.
Really?
And I was very deeply honored, but his conversations, Brandenburg, nobody ever calls me John. They always call me Brandenburg. Brandenburg, why are you causing this trouble?
No way.
Yes.
He said, why are you causing this trouble?
I was at Sandia Labs. I'm working on directed energy weapons, and he calls up. I get this phone call, and he says, is this Carl Sagan? I want to talk to Brandenburg. And I said, you're talking to him. And he says, why are you causing this trouble? It was apparent that I'd thrown somebody's galaxy into chaos by finding this second face of Mars that looked like the first face at Cydonia. And now it's been confirmed. It is another face. By this point, we knew we'd found a dead civilization on Mars.
Yep.
And I will be very honest with you. When we found the second face, we also found shots of the first face in Viking pictures showing it illuminated at morning, so you could see that it was symmetrical, right and left. And then I'd found and digested the isotopic evidence. And when it all kind of sitting in my office, it all hit me. I wept like a child for about 4 minutes.
Why?
Because they were all dead. It looked like a thermonuclear holocaust and had happened there. And we were so afraid it would happen on Earth, working at Sandia Labs. And I just was just overcome with grief. After a few minutes, I said, get a hold of yourself. I said, get a hold of yourself, get a grip, And I said, don't be sad, be happy, because now you know. Now you know. The universe has no safety net. Bad things can happen in the universe, and make sure they don't happen here. So I became very, very dedicated at that point to see that we have a human mission to Mars, boots on the ground, to find out exactly what happened on Mars, to make sure it doesn't happen here. That's my focus.
Yeah, and Justin, you're all about Mars. He's always Mars, life on Mars. There's stuff on Mars. Look at all these.
Okay, so
to talk about the statue.
Okay, so
coming right now.
All right, so NASA's JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories. They have they're the entity that controls the rovers that are on Mars right now. Okay, and so Mars rovers, they take pictures, and those pictures get beamed back and then uploaded to NASA's JPL website. And so perusing through images on the website, people have found what appeared to be statues, like broken up pieces of rubble, right? Like it was an ancient structure or building or pyramid or that got blown to bits somehow.
And you can still see the faces in some.
Yeah, and so there's this one particular image where it looks like an elongated face, elongated skull or a being that has an elongated face. And I mean, it's unmistakable. It is, in my opinion, it is the remnants of a face of a statue.
Yeah, and it's not just one. There's like
there's 3 or 4 of them.
3. Okay, there's definitely 2. There might be 3 or 4, but like he said, you could see the eyes, you could see the nose, you could see the mouth, you could see that it was an elongated skull, and it's like, how would that have gotten there if there wasn't a civilization there?
Yeah, here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. And okay, so there's that, and then there's also a new structure that has come to light where it looks like a square foundation to a pyramid or some type of square building. And it's like, natural rock formations don't make perfect squares,
right?
In the middle of a desert,
right?
You know what I mean?
Not that I've ever seen.
Right, exactly. So
yeah, Mars is
definitely interesting.
Anyway, do you want to tell us about your new YouTube channel you're planning, or how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because the name The Mystic Frog is something that I've had associated with me since I was in my early 30s. And I don't even really know where it came from. It was just something that felt right to me. And for a long time, I had this idea that, I'm going to do something associated with it, but I just don't really know what. And I've been kind of going through some changes of career and changes of direction lately and trying to figure out what else I wanted to do. And summer camp was one of those things that brought me some clarity. Again, that vision that I had with all those triangles and that download that I got from that. But this is something that I should share.
Tell the audience a little bit more about that so we don't leave them hanging.
Yeah, sure. When we did the ET contact circle, that first one, when we were all in a circle and we were looking up and the storm had been blowing over and then it started clearing off and we were staring up into the sky and more stars were becoming clear and we were starting to see some movement up there too. I had this and it was with my eyes. This was not like something, third eye. This was not something mental. This was with my physical eyes. I had this sensation of seeing just a bunch of triangles. It was like sacred geometry, just coming in and pouring in. And that's what aligned me to that deck that I wound up, reading from tonight and bringing to camp. But it was a sense of purpose. Like, yeah, go ahead and start this channel. Share these insights with people during this time of transition because it's something that people need to know. And do intuitive readings for the collective. I don't really intend to do things by zodiac. I might over time if I feel called to that, but mostly it's just going to be whoever's there watching is part of that collective during that time period. And some of it's going to be channeling and some of it's going to be intuitive reading. And it's also not really going to be about like, love readings or career, things like that. It's really more of this cosmic type stuff that we've been talking about tonight.
Wow, I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, me too. Yeah. And I'm going to have the link to your channel in the video description box below and on the screen, the Mystic Frog 888, right?
Yes.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all.
Very cool. And if you have any questions about like navigating, putting stuff on YouTube or screen recording stuff, or any questions about putting content on your line, you can always come to us and ask us because I'm not saying we're experts or anything, but we got some experience.
I've seen, y'all do a good job with your videos. So I could definitely use the help. That part's all new to me.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to playing around with it and seeing where it goes,
Yep. Very cool.
Yeah. I really enjoyed the ET contact meditation when we were at summer camp. That was phenomenal, and
they really showed up for us. That was awesome.
They did.
It was a party in the sky, right. Especially the second night with the dance party.
Oh yeah, right. I mean, both nights were phenomenal. I've never seen that many lights in the sky before. I mean it was cool. It was amazing. And then when Dana was singing with the singable, I mean, she was actually singing and playing the singable, and put the singable on everybody's chest for, about a minute. And that was, man, that was so cool.
It was.
Yeah, because we went out there and like you had said earlier, when we went out there, it was raining, it was thunderstorms. We didn't know if we were about to get poured on, or what. And we all closed our eyes, started the meditation, and by the time Dana made it around the circle, the storms went away, and the skies were just crystal clear. You could see so many stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Jokes. Yeah, and it was just phenomenal.
Yeah, it was a very powerful experience.
It was
for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorite parts of camp, for sure.
Yeah.
Just because, so we've been doing CE5 for a long time, but I've never seen that many things in the sky at once. And honestly, this is a point that I would like to make. When people attempt CE5, I feel like their state of mind and where their head and their heart is the key to what kind of results you're going to get. So I feel like because we were all just happy, joyful, playful, vibe tribing it up. We were all just like a bunch of little kids with zero expectations and just an open heart
it was
for whatever.
Cloudy, so that we were all kind of like, oh, well, but we all just did it anyway. We were in that frame of mind, that was amazing.
I had trust that it would work out.
I got excited.
But no, you're good. I feel like us getting excited there is what made so many things show up, because I feel like the ETs love when we're playful, when we're in that joy-like, kid-like mindset. You know what I mean? So I really feel that that's an important point to highlight, is that we had a group of people with open hearts, open minds, full of gratitude, love, and, all the good, yummy stuff. And we got a spectacular show 2 different nights.
Right.
Well, and you're easier to contact when you're open like that. Because any type of fear expectation or ego expectation closes off some of your channels. And so they're not as able to manifest for you as they would like to otherwise. And that can also be really true of just the spirit world in general. We kind of touched a little bit on that. A lot of spiritual energy, a lot of those who have passed, sometimes, if that energy has been lingering for a while, they begin to lose a sense of self. So, and that's natural. It's supposed to dissipate. That ego is not ever supposed to go with you when you reincarnate, but if it's strong enough, it'll linger for a while. And if they've been there a while, they don't necessarily remember who they are. And so depending upon how they are approached, they're interested in trying to get your attention, because attention gives them energy, allows them to manifest more, allows them to maintain more cohesion.
Wow,
and so that's why a lot of times you get the knocking on the wall, or just things that are going to try to get your attention.
Right.
If you approach that with a sense of openness and a sense of curiosity, a lot of times that energy is going to be reflected back at you. It's like, oh, this is what I am. I'm something protective. I'm something, nice. And if you approach it with fear and, I'm expecting something demonic to step out or something like that, then it'll do that for you. It'll reflect that energy back. It's like, oh, okay, you want that. That's what you're going to get. That's what gives me energy. That fear feeds me. So yeah, I'm going to be doing that now.
Right.
So, and I'm not saying that that's every type of entity that there is. Your expectations are not always going to shape things. There are things that are more cohesive themselves. But a lot of times when you're dealing with hauntings that seem a little bit ambiguous, or you get kind of mixed reports out of a situation or a location, that's what's going on. It really depends on who is there that night or that day, whoever's doing the investigation, whoever is moving in. That's how it's going to manifest.
I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because we've been talking about that for a while now, and I don't think people really understand how important intention is.
Yeah.
Right.
And perspective. Your perspective.
Yeah, well, and that's how they interact with you. They see you spiritually. They see you energetically. They don't really see you physically. Matter is more dense than they are. They don't see that. They see your energy, and they read your energy. In turn, you read theirs.
Yeah. Well, Well, speaking about spirits, can you take us behind the scenes of being a ghost investigator, uh, investigation guide in Savannah? And do you have
Okay.
any unforgettable moments?
Oh yeah. It was, first of all, it was a lot of fun. We got to do the EMF meters. We had some different
Mm,
equipment that we used with our tour groups, our companies, and there are a lot of locations in Savannah that are extremely haunted. There's just so much energy there. There's so much history there, and a lot of these are
yeah.
connected to some of the historical events of Savannah that had a lot more consequence
Right.
than others. But I think my favorite moment. So we went to this. We would always go into this hotel. They were very gracious to allow us to come in onto their mezzanine and do our investigations there. And the story was that they had a child ghost up there, like a little girl whose dad had worked there in construction or something, and she had been there
Yeah.
with him one day and had fallen. So we had a boy there. It was his birthday, and he was into all of the ghost adventure shows, all the different types of ghost hunting shows. That was all he wanted to do. When they asked him what he wanted to do for his birthday, he's like, I want to go on a ghost hunt.
That's so cute.
So I was super pleased to be the one that was able to give him that experience, because he was just delightful. He knew so much. He was very bright. And we went up there and we were taking pictures and doing different things. And I noticed, whenever I was giving tours, I would always kind of pay attention to just what different people were doing and what they seemed to be focusing on. And I noticed that he had kind of gone off on the side and was kneeling down, and he had his hands held out in front of him. So he was like on his knees with his hands out, palms up, and he was whispering. And I didn't really want to interrupt him, but I kind of got his mom's attention and pointed over there. And she went over and snapped a picture without him being aware that she was standing right there. And then it was, of course, a digital camera. So you look at the screen. There were these golden hands on top of this child's hands, with the fingers pointed toward his wrist. And he was just having the time of his life talking to this. It was a child, because the hands were like the same size as his. And he had a wonderful time. And then he saw the picture from his mom, and he just got so excited. He's like, I'm going to show this to everybody. And that was that was the best thing about giving those types of tours, when people would have encounters and it was something that really changed them, touched them profoundly. I didn't really have a lot of negative experiences with ghosts in Savannah. When I worked at a bookstore, in fact, we had a protective spirit that at night, sometimes it could get a little sketchy at night before you went, to your car. If people were kind of hanging around that square or city market and, looking in the window or something, I would notice that they would very quickly go away. And he would be standing in that little hallway, like right in front of that window, and projecting that go away energy.
Wow.
Yeah. He was very protective of the people who worked there. And I caught a glimpse of him a couple of times. And it used to be like an old cotton warehouse, and he was dressed like workers from that late 1800s.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Savannah is such a cool place.
It is.
It's very interesting. And Johnson Square, the whole entire area is definitely worth visiting if you haven't had the chance to go there.
Absolutely. Colonial Park Cemetery.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was thinking of the cemetery that I walked through, and it was really scary, really spooky.
I want to go.
Yeah, it was cool. Yeah.
Terry Date, sign me up.
Yeah, there's so much history in Savannah, Georgia.
Maybe one day we can all meet in Savannah.
Yeah,
that'd be great. Yeah, you could give us a tour, right?
Yeah, I'll try to see what I can remember after years.
Yeah,
10 years ago.
Right. That would be so cool. We should make
it would be. Yeah. They also have a new paranormal museum that was started by a friend of mine who was my coworker at the time. And that would be a really fun thing to go to. They've been collecting artifacts.
Okay.
And people have been sending them a lot of things, and they've been doing, kind of ghost hunts and different types of encounters in their museum, and they've had a lot of interesting experiences. Haunted City. I want to say it's like Haunted City Podcasts is the company. They have a YouTube channel too. So check them out. They're really cool.
I will, definitely.
Awesome.
Do you happen to have that photo of the little boy with the golden?
I don't.
Oh, that would be so cool.
We would often try to encourage people to email us photos, and they usually didn't. But I would have loved to see that, because that was one of the most beautiful ghost photos I'd ever seen in my life. I mean, the hands were just like golden light, and it was just beautiful. And I had felt that girl there before, and I mean, she was definitely a loving presence, a fun presence, and she liked having people come in. She liked having people talk about it, and she was not at all sad or lonely or anything like that. She even just liked being in the hotel, because there was always a change of energy and people coming in. And
now I wonder if like what makes a spirit linger around versus what makes a spirit just go right to the light and be done with it. Like I'm curious and fascinated by the idea of like how long a spirit can linger around, because like there are some places in Florida or like in Georgia where there's been like Civil War stuff happening where like you can still even hear like the booms of the guns and the cannons and the whatever's they were throwing at each other. So like why does some stuff linger and why does some stuff go? Like what's the deal?
So what you're kind of talking about is more what a residual haunt. And residual haunts usually happen in places that had great emotional charge. And more often than not, of course, as humans, what's going to have the biggest emotional charge for us is violent, catastrophic death and conflict. And it leaves an impression on the area itself. It's believed, some people think that it's crystal deposits under the earth. But it is an energy that is held in the earth in those spots. And so if you were to encounter, say, Civil War soldiers on those battlefields, they're not aware of themselves. They're not aware of you. It's like watching a film, and it plays over and over again. We had one of those in my house when I was growing up, and I found out a bit later. I mean, I started encountering before I found out what it was from a neighbor.
What was it? Tell us.
Well, the man who built the house killed himself there.
Oh.
Because he had terminal cancer. It was like in the late 60s. He was in a lot of pain. There was just, there was no way out. So he chose that way out.
Okay.
And the residual haunt, he did it with a shotgun, which is just, oh my gosh, how? But yeah, he did that. So the residual haunt was, if you made my parents' bed and you left the bedroom, you would hear the bed creak. And if you went back in, there was an indentation across the bed, like someone had laid across it.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, you didn't hear any bangs or anything like that, but it was just always, you could make that bed, you could smooth it out. And I had a lot of friends who wouldn't come over anymore because of this. But, you leave and you come back and it's smoothed out again. And occasionally my father's hunting rifles would fall out of his closet, which was physically impossible because the way that the closet was shaped, there was some lip before you got to the door part, the sliding door. And he had them propped in against that part, like in that corner. And the door would be open and they would be laying out on the floor of the bathroom. Oh, and wow. They were often accusing me of like playing with their guns or something. No, I would never, that terrified me, but that would happen. So I really felt like that was kind of a residual situation because I never felt a sense of personality with it. It was just this impression that stayed behind. And as far as how long those can last, I think that there are a few factors at play. One is definitely where on earth that happens. Some places are more prone to holding on to things than others. I think part of it is the strength of the emotional energy that happened. If there was a whole lot of pain and fear, that tends to linger a little more. And then if there are other people around, each time you come out to ghost hunt or, even just tour a battlefield or something like that, you're putting energy into that. And, you'll also often hear about like people doing ghost hunts, their batteries get drained.
Yes.
It's very easy for them to pull energy out of batteries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The same thing happens on Skinwalker Ranch.
Yep.
And that's a really interesting place.
It's almost like the spirit literally uses the energy from the battery somehow to help like stick around or manifest stronger or something. I don't know
also
what the
makes
deal
me
is.
think of lights. Like I have a lot of experience with like lights, and a lot of people do. Flashing or blinking, or I feel like there's something with lights, which is also like electricity, and
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like I had to say that.
Yeah. Well, and a lot of times that's like your clairvoyance kind of trying to wake up to something. Your brain has become aware that there's something there, and you're not really necessarily familiar with seeing those things or looking at those things, but it's your brain is trying to pick up on something that's there, and that's how it registers for you.
So, if given the chance, would you choose to live in another haunted house again, or are you done with that?
I think it would depend on the haunting.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also had, I don't know if you've heard of Tales of Hatmen.
Yes. Oh.
Yeah, we had a Hatman there. And I would never want to live with another Hatman.
I've never heard a good Hatman story. They're all super creepy, like creepy AF creepy.
Is there another name for the Hat Man?
The Slender Man, isn't it? He also called the Slender Man.
The Slender Man was an urban legend.
Oh.
But what's kind of funny is that a lot of people have kind of started seeing him, and that's an example of what I was talking about, where that energy manifests is what you're expecting to see, right? Because a lot of people have given emotional energy and attention and psychic energy to these urban legend stories, and they're very compelling. And so that has, people have started to actually have these encounters, and it's this stray energy that's picking this up and being like, okay, yeah, that's what I am. But the Hat Man, I was not expecting to see anything. I was 10 years old, and I was in the bathroom, and I was drying my hair, and I hated having kind of cracked doors to my back. It either had to be all the way open or all the way closed.
Okay.
And at this point, I had it all the way open. And the way the mirror was, you could kind of see down the hall. And we had this guest room, and I hated that room. I always hated that room, because even if the light was on in the hallway and there wasn't light on in that room, shadow would come out of the room across the hallway instead of light going into the room. Yeah, it was very creepy. I didn't like feeling that shadow. It was like feeling oil on your skin or something. It's just terrible. So I was drying my hair, and I decided that I wanted the door open instead of shut, because at least then if something was going on, I could see it. So I looked in the mirror, and I saw these two little shiny toes of shoes sticking out just beyond that threshold. And I thought, why did my dad leave his shoes in that door? That's weird. And I turned around, and I didn't see anything, like with my eyes. And I still had the hairdryer going. I'm like, okay, I don't want to give away that I've seen this. So I'm going to still act like I'm drying my hair. But now I'm like laser focused on the mirror. And so the next thing I saw, it didn't step out. So this is why I kind of think these guys might be like interdimensional beings and not just ghosts or something.
Okay.
The legs kind of flowed out like bonelessly, and the
that's
crease,
not creepy,
right? And the crease in the pants was very, very crisp, like just very crisp trousers, like pinstripe trousers. And so at this point, I'm kind of shaking, and I'm still drying my hair and just thinking, oh my gosh. And I kind of tried to be clever, just looking over my shoulder like, oh, I'm just turning to dry my hair. And I didn't see it with my eyes in the hallway again. I'm like, okay, I'm only seeing this in the mirror. This is wild. So when I turned back to the mirror, the whole thing was now in the hallway. And had like a fedora type hat on. Now I didn't know what that hat was called at that time. That's just later in life I realized that that's what kind of hat it looked like. And it had a completely smooth white egg for a face.
Oh yeah, that's not
color. The only color on it was a very bright red boutonniere. Like to the point that like seared into my brain, that detail like seared into my brain, because that was like the only point of color. And then it's like it kind of realized that I saw all of it. And so our hallway was kind of like a T, and then there was this area that went toward my parents' bedroom. The best thing I can describe is like if you took a vacuum cleaner tube and tried to like suck up a Kleenex or a tissue, the way it would kind of zip like that. Yeah, it did that down the hallway to my parents' bedroom.
Wow.
Oh,
and at that point, I turned off the the hairdryer and just ran screaming bloody murder down the hallway. And I could not calm down. You know, my parents could not calm me down for over an hour. That was just one of the most, and it felt evil. Like it felt like just the heaviest, most negative, most, malicious, malevolent thing you can imagine. And in my entire life, I have never encountered that feeling again. So,
okay, well, I'm glad it was only that one time, I'm glad it was only that one time.
Yeah. And later on, another kid saw the exact same thing in the house.
Wow.
Oh, snap. Wow. So I feel okay. I have two questions. I'm trying to decide which one I want to go with. All right, let me start with the one I thought of first. So we've already talked about ghosts and spirits, and we've already spoken about aliens, and we've spoken a little bit about mermaids. But what's your take on Bigfoot? And I'm specifically asking this because we were in Arkansas together at camp, and that's Bigfoot territory in the Ozark Mountains, where Dolores Iscannon's from.
I think I'd also told you guys in the chat that like after that I'd been seeing Bigfoot everywhere, not like literal Bigfoot, but like, representations of it just all over the place that I had never really seen before. I started kind of looking into that because I was really interested in, what does this mean? Why would I be seeing this everywhere all of a sudden after being in Arkansas? And one of the most interesting things that I came across was a connection to Maldek.
How?
When Maldek was destroyed, it created a lot of trauma for that collective to the point that for a long time, they weren't even really aware of what had happened to them, and they were not able to receive any type of outside communication from other spirits or starseeds or anything like that. They were all kind of trapped in that trauma ball together.
Okay.
And after enough time passed, and they started to be able to break out of that, one of the ways that they decided to process this was to incarnate here as kind of 3D consciousness in a more animal body. So kind of this blending of 2D and 3D reality and consciousness. And they tend to appear more to people who are kind of on that verge of that split of, am I going to go down that 3D road? Am I going to go up that 4D road? And they're kind of concerned about that. They're trying to guide us not to make those same mistakes.
So are they Bigfoot?
Yeah, I mean they are. The spirits came into Bigfoot, and I'm not saying that I know this for a fact, but it seems to me that they're interdimensional beings.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because obviously if they were just stuck here on Earth all the time, we would have found them by now. We would have, had scientific evidence, and the fact that they can kind of come and go, do,
I really think that they're straight up just like no joke using portals, like Rick and Morty style, just they walk there, they go back in, because they're often seen with like glowing orbs in tow. Like if a Bigfoot is seen walking through the woods, there's usually little orbs following it. So like, it's got to be an interdimensional situation. It has to be, like, that's what I'm thinking. Because I feel like they can be heard, they can be seen sometimes, they could have their footprints on the ground, or maybe
they can be smelled. People
smelled, or a tuft of hair that gets stuck on a fence or a tree or something, but they're never caught. So it's like they got to be popping through portals. Like, deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, right. Crazy.
And I don't think most of the time, I don't think that it's a mistake that they're seen either. They want to be. When they're seen, they want to be seen.
Yeah.
I'm feeling drawn back to you seeing the hat people. I feel like, or the interdimensional entity that you saw. The thing that's sticking out to me is you said the face was just egg white, right? But does that mean like you saw facial features, or was it just like
it was like an egg. It was like an egg.
That's what I saw. When you said that, I'm thinking an egg face, like,
just a very smooth, no eyes, no features whatsoever.
Featureless.
Featureless.
All right. So how long ago was it that I had that dream? Do you remember? It was like a year and a half ago, something like that. I had a dream in which it felt totally real to me. And uh, I remember it felt like I was being psychically attacked. And I just had so much pressure from all around me, just crunching down, just crunching down on my head, right? And in this dream, like the whole entire ceiling of the bedroom turned into this one gigantic face that was all white, you know, and I remember the face just coming down through the ceiling and going back up like it was breathing almost, you know, and every time that it came down, it would come down a little closer, and it felt like more pressure was squeezing, you know, everything in me. And it almost looked like a mannequin face, you know, like featureless, but a little bit, you know, you could see the face a little bit, but featureless, and it was just all white. So when you said the face was just like in smooth like an egg and all white, it made me think of that, and I wonder if that's a connection.
Creepy.
You know, it was like the most.
I don't think that was just a dream. They do attack people in their sleep. They do. They're often responsible for night terrors and things like that. People having that sensation of something squeezing their ankles or squeezing their head. Yeah, and you know, of course, I can't speak for what they're here for. They're very mysterious, but I do think that they feed on fear in some way.
Okay.
So do you have suggestions or guidance or remedies that you could, for anybody out there that might be watching that are dealing with that kind of thing?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like tools.
Well, what I did is she got me a dream catcher that was actually put together by Native Americans and blessed by them. So I think that worked because I haven't had any since then. But
and your belief
you recommend?
Probably is very powerful in that as well. But
well, that's what I was going to say. If you believe you can block them out, you can. Period. They cannot overcome that. And over time, you know, I never saw it again, but I felt it many times, and I got to a point where like I could totally keep it out of my bedroom. Like it never came into my bedroom anymore because I was just like, you're not coming in here. You know, you just set a good boundary. If there's something spiritual that really speaks to you, like a dream catcher or a jar of salt or, you know, whatever that you really feel like is protective for you, that's going to help you keep them out. But it kind of works in tandem with your faith. Yeah. You know, if you work closely with angels or you feel like that's something that watches over you or protects you, they will. But yeah, they tend to watch people. A lot of stories of them, they're just watching people. You know, they never really, they don't really physically come in and touch you or anything like that. It's always mental and psychic and
you know, and there's also times that I can remember when I was little, like, you know, 7 or 8 years old, feeling like I was being watched or whatever. And then there was one specific time that I remember it almost looked like I could see footsteps in the carpet in my bedroom, you know, but nobody's there, but I'm seeing the impression of feet walking across the room. You know, it was the craziest thing.
Yeah.
You know, I'm sure my sister remembers that too.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, some spirits do manifest enough that they can affect our physical world. That's how they, you know, slam doors and do things like that. Yeah, I've even had that experience with a ghost cat, and not the one that I talked about earlier, but I don't know which cat this was because I didn't feel like it was one of my cats. But for about 3 weeks when I was living in Georgia, and my husband experienced it too. And now when I say that, you know, he is a very rational atheist, you know, just doesn't believe in this kind of stuff. He's very respectful of me, but, you know, he doesn't share my beliefs. Right. But he had this experience as well, where we were in the bed and we thought it was one of our cats at first because it felt that real. It felt like a cat jumping up on the bed, walking up between us and lying down. And we started trying to talk to our cat, and then he came through the door and jumped onto the bed. We're like, okay, what?
We thought you were already here.
Yeah, we turned on the light. There was nothing there, but there were footprints in the comforter, like a cat.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And it kept happening for like that 3 weeks. And then we went on a trip, and when we came back, it wasn't there anymore.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it didn't have any kind of bad feeling whatsoever. I think it was just a cat.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, Rowan. So I have a question that I like to ask of all of our guests. It's kind of a doozy.
Yeah, clear your mind for a second.
So, yeah, okay. All right. Rowan, what is your greatest hope for the future of humanity?
That is a good one. My greatest hope for the future of humanity is that as many of us as possible can get onto that 4D timeline as quickly as possible. We're all going to get there in the end, no matter what.
Yeah.
But it would be nice if we could get there together and faster.
For real. Amen to that,
Right.
Mr. Soul. Amen to that. Wow, this has been a really cool conversation. We've covered a lot of ground here. We've covered spirits and ghosts and hatbands and Bigfoot and aliens and all kind of things. Very cool.
And I feel like we only scratched the surface, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like we need to have another conversation.
Sure. I mean, even if it's not like a recording situation, but you just guys want to, talk sometimes. I'm
No, I mean recording, yeah.
Awesome. All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Does anybody
I'd be down for it.
Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Does anybody have any last things they'd like to say before we close out?
Just that it was a pleasure meeting Rowan in person. I want to say that, and then to get to spend this time with her again. So thank you, Rowan.
You're welcome. It was so amazing getting to meet you guys at summer camp, and I was so excited when you said that you wanted to do this, because I'm like, yay, I get to hang out with them again, because y'all were just so much fun to hang out with. Yeah. So I'm really glad that you invited me. I appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely.
It's been wonderful.
Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Very cool. All right. So for our audience, thank you guys so much for hanging out with us and listening to all of our cool, spooky ghost stories. If you could please do us a favor and smash that like button, click subscribe, ring our little notification bell, drop a lovely comment down below, and share this video with your family and friends to help us spread the good word. All right, Rowan, we close out our show with a little 3-piece hand thing that we do. I'll show it to you real quick, and then if you are available, I would invite you to join with us.
All right.
We do much love, peace, and namaste. We're going to do it again, but that's it. Gotcha. All right. Are you ready? All right, here we go. Much love, peace, and namaste.